Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the Designer, Courtney Cronin back at it again. A lot to get into on today's episode. You thought it was over? No, we're still reacting to the Bears' big win over the Green Bay Packers. Got to get Courtney's takeaway. She was in person, and from what I hear, that building was literally rocking. So we got to hear about that. Of course, take a look ahead, though. The Rams are coming to Chicago, and could we be talking about this Bears team going into this game as one of the NFC's most dangerous teams left in the playoffs? I'm going to give some reasons why and see what Courtney thinks about it. All that and more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Today's episode is always brought to you by Underdog. Make picks, win money. Courtney, how are you?
I'm good. It's wild to be gearing up for the divisional round of the playoffs. I haven't covered a team that's gone this far since 2019 when I was covering Minnesota, and it's the first round games that I've covered in the wild card round. I've only been 2 of them. This one, and then the Vikings beating the Saints in 2019 on a push off in overtime, and that was before the overtime rules changed. So it's a lot different, but they've been wild. They truly live up to their name of being a wild card game because of how they finished. And I think outside of last night and really outside of Sunday Night Football, we got great games across the 4 that we had before that in the wild card round.
Funniest thing in the world now is like Rich Eisen saying that football fans just know you're going to miss the Chiefs in the playoffs. I haven't thought about them once. I literally was like, I thought about that today when somebody retweeted that clip, and I was like, oh, yeah, the Chiefs aren't in the playoffs. Get it done, Josh Allen. But listen, you were at the game, taking a look at what we saw. I mean, insane comeback. Probably, I've said, the most electrifying game that has been played in Soldier Field, probably of all time. I know there's some games that sent us to the Super Bowl there, so maybe not the most important, but I mean, what was the vibe like in the building when did you start to feel like, oh, the tide's going to turn on this thing, isn't it?
So I noticed it because this is so weird. It was in the third quarter. I think it was right after halftime. So they're down 21-3, and then they go down 21. And then there's 21-6. But the DJ's playing NBA Youngboy. It's whatever the new song is.
I couldn't.
If only I knew it offhand, but I obviously recognize it. And it was just silent from the crowd. Usually you hear the crowd, you hear them cheering over it, so you don't hear the music as much. But I'm damn, this isn't even getting these people hyped up. We're in for a long night, guys. So I was damn, this crowd is flat. It felt really flat. Early on, they score the field goal in the first possession, crowd's into it, and then the possessions just become wasted possessions at that point. You had 4 in the first half and then 3 points total. So I felt maybe the magic has run out. Maybe they're not going to be able to mount a comeback the way that they did before in so many other games because, hey, it's already the second half. The defense got them to go 3 and out multiple times and they haven't capitalized. Oh, wait, it's the fourth quarter now. When is the rally going to start, if at all? So I'd say it changed. I mean, the Swift touchdown, it's kind of yeah, okay, they're back in it. You could sense that from the fans. But then after the Love touch, or after Green Bay scores, and then when the Bears get the ball back and they score on that Zacchaeus touchdown, I think the shaking in the press box started on that drive specifically. So, of course, Caleb hits Rome Odunze on 4th and 8 with the off-platform, just levitating sort of throw. Yeah. And that, that's where the crowd, I think, really came into effect there with how loud it got, that you could hear it. I mean, obviously you can't hear it clearly from the press box, but you could hear it. It was okay, if it's loud in here, it must be deafening out there. So there was that. Then there was the shaking of the press box, the people slamming the seats down to make the clapping noise. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced covering a game at Soldier Field. And we've covered a lot of wild ones this year. Obviously nothing bigger than a one and done elimination stage that certainly, to this day, people are still talking about it, 4 days removed from when the game happened.
What's the takeaway from this game in your mind? I mean, listen, you don't want to continue to go into the playoffs and play games this way, but I think most of us going into the playoffs said, You can't win this way in the playoffs. And the Bears have proven that we can win this way anytime we want to. It's just that we don't want to win this way either. We would like to be going sooner. I think you saw it in the good, better, best video when Caleb pretty much calls out everybody in that video, knowing that's going out to the world when he gets the game ball. Like, to me, it truly feels like this is a team that is just, no matter the situation, they can find a way to get the job done in crazy scenarios at this point. What was your takeaway from what we saw in that Green Bay Packer game?
Well, Green Bay was a vulnerable opponent.
Yeah.
And if you were going to be able to do this one more time, I'd say that Green Bay is probably your best bet of anybody in the field that they could have played in the first round. And obviously the options got limited by week 18. So once you knew it was Green Bay again, you knew that you had a team whose defense is a completely, it's a shell of itself since Micah Parsons got injured. It felt like if there was any team that could have that happen to them where their meltdown becomes your gain, it's Green Bay. So I like, as much as like we hear about we want to change, we want to be different, we want to be a team that starts early, starts faster, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. This is who you are at this point. This
Yeah.
is your identity. And I know it's hard to lean into that because it makes it sound like you're not taking the first 3 quarters seriously, or like you're not valuing the importance of scoring early, which they are, but it's like they still haven't been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I don't I don't expect any change, honestly. I think this is kind of, now that they've done it on this stage, what's to say that like they'll do anything differently in a game that's probably going to be the first of 50?
Yeah.
The Rams were in a similar situation last week where Matthew Stafford had to drop back more than 40 times like every quarterback on Saturday threw the ball more than 40 times,
Oh, yeah.
including Caleb and Matthew Stafford, who are going to face off this week. He's like the OG king of the comeback. Caleb is the young gun king of the comeback. So as much as I think that this Rams game, like if they did it once, they can do it again in the playoffs. That's great in theory, but Green Bay was a much more gettable foe than I think
Yeah.
the Rams are. And we have seen them melt down in the playoffs before. Coaching matters. And that's why we're talking about Matt LaFleur. Do we know he's staying? Is he not staying? Like all of those things factor into why they were probably the best draw that the Bears could have had if that trend of late, frantic rallies was gonna continue, and it did.
Yeah, it's so, like, it's the one scenario I think most of us didn't expect to happen. We're sitting there like, if the Bears are down in the first half, this ball game's probably over. And this is a team that continues to find ways to create the answers. And I think that's what makes them, to me, the most dangerous, Courtney. Like when I look at that Packers game, like there's a lot from that game that does excite me in the second half. And it's not just, the Green Bay Packers falling on their faces. It is the fact that that is a really good offense when Jordan Love is
Sure.
the one quarterbacking it. It is an offense that can attack you deep down the field. It is a lot of what you're going to see versus the Rams today. Now, I don't think there's a Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams on Green Bay right now, but they've got some really nice pieces that can get after you. And Christian Watson, two pieces that did get after you in that game. And I think what we saw in the second half defensively, like heading into this week, that has to be tape that Dennis Allen is playing on repeat, not only for the players or
For
himself,
himself,
because I
yeah.
thought he called a much better game. The use of Kyler Gordon, and maybe because he's on a pitch count, there was much more use in the second half of that game. But I thought the game plan was so much better, and it was one that you could use coming into this week to slow down a banged up Matthew Stafford, who's coming into conditions that he hasn't really played in a ton in his career. I think the stat Carmen gave out today, he's 2-2 in games under 30 degrees, and this should be the coldest game that he's ever played in his career.
It might be one of the colder ones for Caleb Williams too, like including that Cleveland game from earlier in the year, if
Yeah.
if the wind chills are as bad as they're saying they have the potential to be. But
I'm
to
a feels like guy, Courtney.
me
When they
too,
go
me too.
15 degrees, but it feels like -1. Yeah, it's -1 outside.
Yeah, it feels like negative 15 degrees anytime they say like what the actual temperature is and then say it's going to be colder than that. But the weather will be a factor, I believe, for both teams. But obviously, the Bears are much more conditioned to playing in these conditions than a team that plays inside of a dome. Um,
Yeah.
and then additionally, Matthew Stafford has the sprained finger on his
Yep.
throwing hand. he's going to play. Ben Johnson knows he's going to play. They're not anticipating anything differently because he's a tough dude who plays through stuff. But I think when you think about the defense and what changed for the Bears and how they can try to get some of that done earlier, like it's a couple of things. So Jordan Love's 3 touchdowns, 2 of them came against man coverage, and the Bears
Yeah.
got crushed in man coverage in the secondary in that first half. And he was so good on 3rd and 4th down. So the second half, he was terrible on 3rd and 4th down. And of course, at the end of the game, their last ditch effort. I get that. The botch snap, the drive that ends with the botch snap, and that's the end of the game.
A lot of drops.
But the drops factored in. So that's not just on Jordan Love. That's not on Matt LaFleur. That's on the receivers.
No.
Like some of those things are hard to say. Is that a defense? Did the defense do their job like so well that they caused them to drop a pass, or was it just that the Packers, shot themselves in the foot? I think it can be both things, but the use of Kyler Gordon on the nickel blitz and how they blitzed Jordan Love in the second half, technically lower, like it's a lower blitz rate. It went from like 41% to 36%, but they got a higher pressure rate because of what they were able to do with their 4-down linemen. So, but it's been like this all year long, and it's not that you figured them out all of a sudden. I think that you just decided to switch a couple things up to see if it worked. And that's ultimately what got them in the game down 21-3, where there's 3 straight punts of 3 and outs. And then the fourth consecutive one. And then it's like, all right, defense is doing its job. Offense capitalizes. Yeah. So can you do that against the Rams? You've got 2 alpha receivers, one of whom would have had he not dropped that pass in the first half, we're talking about another touchdown from Puka Nacua, who had 1 last week in 118 yards receiving for 111 yards receiving for the Rams in that game against Carolina. He would have had 2. These guys are dangerous. The 2 weapons that they have on the outside, speed, strength, like the way that they win these contested catches, all of it. How do they get there is my question. Because of the weather, is it more of a rushing attack that they want to capitalize on? I still think that,
which they have with the 2-headed monster they have back there.
Yeah, you're right. With Williams leading the way, I just think that defensively, this will be the hardest test that the Bears have since when? Since we thought the Eagles were going to be that.
I was going to say San Fran.
No, because the San Francisco was super banged up. Remember, like Trent Williams, like they lose him in the game to a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
George Kittle wasn't playing. I don't believe that Ricky Pearsall was playing. Like they had a numbers disadvantage from the very start. Yeah. So this is the most complete team in the NFC. It has been that way all season long, but you think that there'll be certain factors here that could work in the Bears' favor, but then you also have to recognize they're loaded and your defense is not. As much as you're getting healthy right now, you still struggled. And if you're struggling against a team like that, if that happens against a team like the Rams, I think you're in more trouble.
Yeah. I mean, listen, as crazy as it is to say, and when I look at, going into this game, and you don't want anybody to be hurt, I would love to have everybody healthy. Of course, the injuries are going to play into it. Ozzie Trapillo, I think, is a massive one that we're going to have to talk about a ton this offseason. TJ Edwards, of course, is a big one as well. Yeah. But the TJ Edwards one, right? Like, you don't want to say that it looked better, but it did look better when DeMarco Jackson got into the game. Maybe that's just timing. Maybe it's because there was a change or there was a different comfort level with DeMarco Jackson out there. But I thought that he was flying around. I thought he was tackling well, stuffing in the run game. I thought he did a better job in coverage. Like, as much as we want TJ to be perfect this year, TJ's been banged up all year. This has been an injury-filled season with him. Mm-hmm. He probably isn't at 100%. I thought you had somebody out there who was able to step up in a perfect way, and that may help you moving forward defensively versus this Rams team.
Yeah, and I mean, the tackle for loss that he had was big. The way he played the run, like I know that Green Bay kind of abandoned it in the second half with Josh Jacobs, but once TJ Edwards went down, it did feel like there wasn't much of a beat missing from that linebacker group. Now, they're without him the rest of the season. So DeMarco Jackson will be, just based on what we know about how
just on the numbers.
Like, I mean, Noah Sewell is out for the year. TJ Edwards is out for the year. They have, I mean, I would imagine Ruben Hippolyte will be active for this game. You got to have a third linebacker. Yeah. So But I mean, they're fortunate that they've developed him to a place where they can rely on him to start because he's going to need to. He's going to be playing 99%, 95% of defensive snaps again, and that's important.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening this upcoming week. I'll tell you this. I think that this Bears team is incredibly dangerous. I want to go through a couple of things that to me stand out about this team going into this game that we did see in the second half of this Packer game. Now, will they sustain? Nobody knows. But first, we do got to get into our play from Underdog this week. And as always, Courtney starts off here. Courtney, what do you like in Underdog this week?
So I like Luther Burden higher than 38.5 receiving yards.
Ooh.
Last week, obviously, there was the interception, which, as Ben Johnson said yesterday, if there was any time or any place on the field or any situation to throw an interception, basically it was a punt from where they were near midfield. Yes. That thing happens like right around like the 5-10 yard line. The miscommunication needs to clean up between Burden and Caleb. And Caleb I think that's the part where you saw him get super demonstrative in the game and yelling on the sideline. Looked like he said, do your job or it's your job. Not a lip reading expert, but that's at least what I saw. That was one where they felt they could have had that. That would have been a touchdown there in the first half.
100%.
And you can't have that happen again. Usually when something like this happens, within this offense, there's a course correct the next week. And I do not think that Caleb's not going to throw the ball to Luther Burden. He's an explosive playmaker. Like I remember, early on when nobody knew who he was. And then in that Dallas game, that big touchdown he had in the first half, it's like, all right, this is why they drafted this guy. I think more shot plays like that with him. And so he finished last week 3 catches on 7 targets for 42 yards. I think 38.5 is a safe bet. I think Colston Loveland will still be a big target for Caleb Williams. Roma Dunze, obviously coming off the foot injury on 4th and 8, that's who Caleb goes to. Remarkable stuff. But you're seeing pretty much there's always like one who explodes, which has been Colston Loveland the last couple games. But everybody else right around the same production. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden. So I think he'll probably end up being like second or third in receiving again. And 30.5 to me, higher than 38.5 seems like a good 40-45 day.
No, 100%. I think, and usually when we see the course correct, it is kind of a course correct in a big way,
Caleb
right?
will feed them that. Like, I think it's just it's a way to be like, hey, I still trust you. Like, we may have had this mess up, but I still trust you.
I would agree with you. I think it's going to be a big day for Luther. I think he's going to be a little bit more locked in. He got a little out of body. Sometimes it happens. You get excited. He beat his man off the line. He's like, I got it. Easy walk-in touchdown here. Mailbox this one. But the safety flips his hips and he's right there. Young player getting baited. Good job by Caleb, I guess, in that scenario. Still throwing to the spot so that Luther can learn what he needs to do. But hopefully we see a much better day out of Luther. Make sure that you guys stay tapped in with everything going on at Underdog. Download the app today. Sign up with the promo code CBP to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code CBP. Underdog, make picks, win money. EOQ the disclaimer. Must be 18 years or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or over in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
I love that my husband's so handy. He leaves more money for the important stuff.
Whoa.
Gosh darn it, Steve.
Ow. Don't be like Steve. Call Avondale Roofing. DIY is for Pinterest, not your roof.
Welcome back into the Chicago Bears podcast. Pat, the designer, Courtney Cronin, back at it again. Today's episode also brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find you in a Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6 right off I-80, 94. All right, Courtney, like as we head into this game, I truly feel like this is a Chicago Bears team that has learned a lot from their first playoff experience, should be a little bit more locked in. Doesn't mean they won't be the team that we've seen, But I think that it could be the most dangerous team left in the NFC. Reason being, when you get into the playoffs, there's a couple of things you need to go in your favor. You need home field advantage, unless the Bears play the Seahawks. You have that. You've got West Coast teams coming here to play in adverse conditions if you do get that matchup, because it will be San Fran coming here as well, and possibly they could be playing in one of the colder games that they've played in here. And I don't understand why this keeps happening, but it feels like no matter what, teams take this Bears team lightly until it's too late. It's 7 times now we have seen the Chicago Bears have these comeback efforts. And while I would love that not to happen, I think it does say something that Ben Johnson has instilled a culture that you have to play 60 minutes of football no matter what versus us. And there's not a lot of football teams that are used to doing that on a consistent basis. Now, I do think the Rams are one of those teams because they've won a Super Bowl. You've had to go through those ups and downs. But when things get tough, there's a lot of players on this field that will start to loosen up the grip on the rope. And that's when the Bears have taken the most advantage. I think that makes them one of the teams that, when you look at it at the end of the day, they could be one of the final 2 teams standing.
And there's reason, like the reasons you pointed out. Obviously, it is so much harder to go on the road to make your path from a actual wild card team and not a division winner into the playoffs, like deep into the playoffs. So that's why San Francisco's at a disadvantage. The Rams are at a disadvantage over the Bears, where now you get a second home game in a row. It's the reason why the 2 seed was so important to them. You get to make other teams play in the conditions that you normally play in. And even with they've fixed their kicking issues, obviously, in Los Angeles when they got rid of Josh Carty. But even knowing that Mevis is a good kicker. What was he last week? So at 4 extra points, made 2 field goals, he scored 10 of their points. Has he kicked in conditions like this? I'd have to go back and look at that. But Soldier Field on a Sunday night, if it's weather, if there's going to be snow, if there's going to be a lot of cold, that's a very difficult place to make those high pressure kicks. So I factor that in, of why they are so lucky that they have the home field advantage as of right now.
Yeah. 6-2 at home, the Bears are this year.
The most dangerous team, I think the reason people or other teams haven't necessarily taken them, may have taken them lightly at points, kind of like what Ben Johnson said last week, that we've proven that we're a team that can score late, score in bunches, i.e. what happened on 3 consecutive drives there in the 4th quarter, and they make teams earn it. They made San Francisco earn it. They were going to win that game had it not been for, that second down drop in the end zone. The game's over. So to make teams earn it and to have the home field advantage, to have a team that has been battle tested, this isn't the first time they've done it. It's the 7th time they've had to have a game-winning drive from Caleb to put themselves in the spot. Of course, that makes them the most dangerous team. However, I would challenge that it'd be if they're 1A, 1B would be the San Francisco 49ers, because they just lost George Kittle in the middle of that game against the Eagles. They kept it close until that game-winning drive where they win it. And it wasn't a pretty game, but to then see Kyle Juszczyk step up, 4 catches for 49 yards, the big one on the game-winning touchdown drive.
It's shocking every time. I don't know why.
To see DeMarcus Robinson step up for Ricky Pearsall and do what he did. To see Eric Kendricks, who has been with the team a month, and obviously I covered him in Minnesota. He's an all-pro. He has a ton of experience in the playoffs too, but that he just got there. If all those injuries at linebacker, for him to come through there on 4th down, and this is a Kyle Shanahan-led team, anytime he's been in the playoffs, he's reached the NFC Championship. You factor all of those things together, I think you would easily make a case for the San Francisco 49ers being that second team, because do we expect them to look as poor as they did the last time that they played the Seattle Seahawks? I don't. I think they'll score more than 3 points. My question would be, can you pressure Sam Darnold? Answer's probably no, because their pass rush is so bad, but
horrible.
I think both make a great case for being the most dangerous teams in the NFC, remaining in the NFC. Now, the AFC is, I think, a completely different picture. I think the Texans are that team, based on what we saw last night, certainly against all these MVP quarterbacks that they've run through the season, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, forcing them to throw multiple interceptions. and turning the ball over. They faced Drake May, who turned the ball over twice. So like they could be in that category. But the Bears are very much, because they haven't proven that they can be like the more dominant team throughout, only in like a portion of it. That's
Yeah.
why they fall into the danger category, because you don't expect it. You don't expect them to come out the way that they finished the game from the very beginning. And that's what makes it a threat, because when is the rally going to start? If it does, and they've done that just every game, even the loss to the Lions in week 18, they had a late rally.
Yeah. 16 in the fourth, I think, on that
Yeah,
one. Were we? No, 13 in the fourth.
They were down. Yeah, they were down 16-0 going into the fourth quarter. that game.
It's one of those things to me where, not to say that it's apples to apples, but it does feel like, can you get a Joe Flacco run here where all of a sudden they're playing a little bit above? Can you get a what's another good one? Eli Manning, right? When Eli Manning just turned it on when the playoffs started and he just starts dominating, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the Super Bowl. I think there's a real opportunity here now. Of course, you got to win this game. Like it's do or die. I think this is a much tougher team for you to play like you did versus the Packers with. But like, I look at how this Bears team, when it is clicking, gets it going. If at any point you get hey, let's do this for, I don't know, 2 quarters, 3 quarters. I take either or at this point. I think that becomes a team that when the offense is clicking and when they're locked in, they're very, very difficult to stop, very difficult to slow down, and it puts teams on their back foot. And on top of that, you started off the show talking about how the audience was rocking. I think Ben Johnson kind of used the Bears-Packers rivalry to leverage all of the fans in that building.
For sure.
No one has ever experienced coaching in that situation. You saw it mess up LaFleur. I don't know if it messes up McVay, but that's a tough situation to coach in, where you're trying to get the call in. QB can't hear it. Now again, Stafford, much more veteran. He's been in these situations.
The end of the game was very much a byproduct of the crowd.
Yeah, 100%. So like, I look at this as, if you have the fan base behind you, if the stadium is rocking, like, it could change how a lot of the outlook on these games are. Because I think a lot of people right now are probably leaning, hey, Bears, great season. Rams are going to get this one, but that's okay. Clap it up for you guys. We're proud of you. Have fun in the offseason. Fix your defensive line. We'll see you here next year. And I don't think that's what the Bears are going to bat with. I think they have a lot of advantages being the home team and having Caleb Williams on their sideline.
Yeah, like, and they're never the team that will. I don't think they view the whole, like, oh, we're playing with house money argument. Like, certainly Ben Johnson doesn't. He's expecting in year 1 to go win a Super Bowl. And I get, 100%. And I like, you have to think about how that message is being relayed behind closed doors, because it wasn't until Saturday night, we find out that they were using the manufactured motivation from what Jeff Hafley was saying, from what Christian Watson and Keyshawn Nixon were saying, what they want the Bears. Like, nobody was saying, like, screw you guys, we hate you, we want you to jump off a cliff. They were just saying, oh no, we want to play this team again. Why do they want to play that team again? Because they want to get one over on the Bears the way they did to them. It wasn't any insult, but like, Ben Johnson used that as like, these people hate you. Like, he took it, turned it.
You got to.
And like, that in itself is an incredible attribute of him as a head coach, that he can get his people to believe, no matter what, that if it's screw me, it's screw you. And that's how they felt about it. And that's why they kept talking about there's so much noise coming out of the building last week. And now that they've been able to galvanize themselves in a situation where most teams who are left for dead like that end up folding, they didn't. And so I do think there is this belief, oh, we've got Caleb Williams on our side. We've got an offensive line that can handle, some of the inconsistencies of what they have up front. I still think that that's a dominant unit when they're D-line, but they don't go into these games anymore feeling like we're the underdog. Yeah, they might be in terms of the spread. They're 3.5 point dogs, I believe, as it stands right now on Tuesday. They don't view it that way. They view it as, we have the belief that a quarterback who understands this offense and can operate it at a high level, that we can put trust in to go win the game, not have the passing game be what they win in spite of. That's a good place for this team to be, which is why so many guys talked about the fact that the one play at a time mentality was actually easy for them to subscribe to, as opposed to being like, man, this is an insurmountable climb. You're down 21-3. like chipping away little by little. They've shown that they can do it before, and I do believe that whole proof of concept thing, having that now is important.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll guarantee you, Sean McVay's not taking this Bears team lightly in any way coming in here to Soldier Field. Especially with I love how Ben Johnson used. It is a little tough for Grady Jarrett, but used the Joe Tooney Grady Jarrett situation of them playing against each other.
That was a cool story.
In the Super
I thought that
Bowl.
was a really cool story. He told us about, like, they watched the film of the 2016 season Super Bowl. Like, I thought that was awesome. Like, to then get you. I mean, you have two dudes who are there. You might as well get their perspective on how quickly a game can be won or lost, despite, like, the Patriots went on to score 31 unanswered points and were in the first ever overtime in the Super Bowl. Like, that, having Joe Tooney there. And even yesterday when Drew Dahlman was talking about this, so he mentions that, like, Case Keenum gets in front of the group. It was talking about, moving on to the next game, taking this one for what it was, but trying to stay locked in, have the best Monday you possibly can. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, where have I heard this before? Oh, I heard this from Case when they had just won the Minneapolis Miracle against the Saints, because that was such an emotional high that I remember thinking that time covering the NFC Championship week in 2017, I'm like, there's no way they're going to win this game in Philadelphia. They were so, like, revved up from that, where they never really came down because it was such a wild finish. Now, that was definitely more of a wild finish than Bears-Packers because of just the circumstance
that was
of the
last
throw.
second. Diggs throw. Yeah.
But, like, the Bears face a similar battle where you just won a wild fourth quarter game. Can you settle in much earlier than you did last week? Can you do it in the first quarter? Can you do it in the second quarter? Can you right some of your wrongs on offense? Because that Vikings came out, they score early, and then 38-7 very quickly. So believe
that is, even having somebody in the room like that with that experience, right? Like, that's been there, that's been around that kind of energy.
The Tooney and Grady Jarrett example.
Yeah. The Bears have done a great job, and I know, right, we're locked in on playoffs right now, which is great to say, but, like, when we get to the end of the season, you do got to give a tip of the cap to Ryan Poles and Matt Eber. It's
been a long week.
Boy, Ben Johnson. You got to give a tip of the cap to Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson on how they put this team together and how they had guys in place that, we need your talent. We still need you to play well, but we really need you to impart on these young players the most that they can get out of you information-wise about how to handle some of these scenarios that you're going to be in. You don't see a lot of teams doing that, but you see the good teams focusing in on that. So I love that. I feel like we're going into what's going to be very similar to Kyle Shanahan versus Ben Johnson, just a slugfest of let's get the play calls right here and go out here and see football magic on display. Hopefully we see this Bears team come out on top. We'll keep you covered with everything here on the Chicago Bears podcast as we continue throughout the rest of the week. Make sure that you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Courtney, anything you're keeping your eye on this week before we get out of here?
Probably Matthew Stafford and what he looks like during practice. Are there any videos of him throwing? I know he's going to play through it, but this is an injury on a sprained finger on your throwing hand.
Yeah.
Just very curious to see how bad is it, or how much the team's trying to protect any information about it from getting out.
I tell you what, it looked bad pretty much the entire time after he went 8 for 8. And him and Puka, it's insane looking at their numbers and seeing the game and going, they aren't on the same page. And he still ends up with 118 receiving yards and a touchdown. So it's a problem that you got coming in here to Soldier. But hey, man, y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love for Courtney Cronin. It's your boy, Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Peace.